Hey guys, it's Jay, here with another review video. Before the review begins, I'd like to ask if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and share with others. Without further ado, onto the vid. The episode begins with workers panicking on Code's moonbase as the flames from Shay's Sun through Moon attack blaze on the outside. We next see others who feel the weight and presence of Shay's Thanatos chi. We then see the aftermath of Shinjuku as the city is destroyed. Shay moves rubble out of the way and stares at Lathe. As he picks up Vinter, Lathe says, "You did it, boy. Exactly what was expected of you. You managed to destroy Shinjuku, a city you aimed to protect. Or was that your original plan? Making a statement maybe. What does it even matter to me? You're the one who must answer for it." As Shay puts Vinter behind his waist, Lathe asks him if he thinks the citywide evacuation was successful prior to their engagement, and he adds that Shay killed civilians. He says Jose underestimated Shay, but that's on him. But as Shay sliced him in two with his flames, how many casualties does he presume were sustained in the neighboring areas? He adds that he and Shay are the same, and the only difference is Shay paints his face. Shay gets close to Lathe's face, while Mahalalel tells Shay to spare him and to let the army recover him as he has no fight left. Shay grabs onto the Elder's mantle and rips it from Lathe, saying no, and forming a Tomas at the same time. Tomas explodes, and Shay is seen walking away from it. Andrea then meets up with Shay and expresses relief in seeing him. She tells him that the nuclear vials were destroyed and that the waste will remain and cause Shinjuku to be uninhabitable by humans. She then asks Shay if he is alright and what that was, with Shay saying it was a declaration of war. Andrea then says, "This isn't good. What was that chi coming from you? I've never felt anything like it, and if I felt it that strongly, everyone did. It was like an old enemy who I felt I should know. You need to lay low, Shay. The gods here have an oath they will not understand." And as she finishes her sentence, a smoke cloud appears, and it is revealed Nico has arrived with the god tier, with them saying, "Lord Shay Hart, by command of the 10, you are ordered to stand down and surrender your arms. This is an order without question. You are detained." The First Lord, Vatic Adelmar, says, "I should have seen it when we first met, but I do now. You do not just possess my wicked brother's body, but his chi as well, the chi of Thanatos." The Third Lord, Kofi Atkins, says, "There are casualties on the moon base. You destroyed this city. Was it you or the mind of Thanatos within you? Answer me, Hart." The Fourth Lord, Abijah, says, "We've been searching for and fighting this exact chi, some of us for our entire lives, and then you suddenly reveal it within you? You have officially renounced our trust." The Fifth Lord, Minamoto no Isamu, says, "Slow down, everyone. We were all aware he was in possession of Thanatos' body, but the chi may have been dormant. I refuse to believe that he himself is the reincarnation of our enemy." The Sixth Lord, Colonel Bree Williams, says, "Have you not read of his birth, Minamoto? He has always been him." The Seventh Lord says, "He's even hiding it now. I can't sense any of it. Are you even who you say you are? I will take no chances with chi like that." The Eighth Lord, Mikhail Ovieda, says nothing, but the Ninth Lord, Zori Akinyemi, says, "Lord Haven is right. We know Thanatos has returned, but cannot locate him. And then Lord Hart does this? Anything that risks the lives of my people will not be permitted to live. Do you understand that?" The 10th Lord, Tao Huang, says, "Forgive us, Lord Hart. There are too many questions, yet the major issue remains. The Lords are sworn by an oath to lay down their lives to protect against one threat, and everything points to you being that threat, my lord. Please surrender until further notice." Andrea screams out in frustration and asks if they have all gone mad. She questions since they cannot find Thanatos, they lock away their own comrade, and mentions that Shay has bled for them. Nico says Andrea does not understand and that the Lords are bound by their oath, and adds that they will risk everything to defeat Thanatos. Every order, every plan, and every life comes second to stopping him, as they are sworn to protect this world from one person, and they cannot make sense of the fact that Lord Hart not only possesses his body, but now his chi. Anton then makes his entrance, with him landing right in front of Shay. Kofi tells Anton to move, as he is unwisely standing in the god tier's way, but Anton simply responds that he knows. Minamoto then says, "Seems today is your first day as a new 7th head of code, and you started by opposing the god tier's wishes. For some, that has been a death sentence. Others may call you foolish, but I know what Khan can do. You'd kill at least one of us before you fell. As I said, comrades, we must stand down. There is no need for more bloodshed this day. We must avoid fighting at all costs." A man in a wolf mask then walks forward, saying, "And by that you are correct, my lord." Bree recognizes who this individual is, as Grimbor Jin reaches behind his back and pulls out his sword, also saying, "This is a matter of the first table, and it does not concern the lords, so we indeed must avoid a fight at all costs." Reed says that they have not fought for some time, and men have forgotten what they are capable of, as even the first table opposes them. He adds that this is going too far, and that they should indeed stand down lest many of them die today, as Grimbor isn't called the White Fang for nothing. He continues by saying there is no need to spill blood once Lord Hart complies, and that they have people to protect. He then asks Grimbor why they change of heart, and wonders if he now sides with Shay. Grimbor apologizes to Shay for their initial interaction, as he was consumed by the people he needs to keep alive, and he thought he and Shay did not share the same resolve. But now he understands that Shay will lay his life down as he will, and he adds that Shay may be their only hope of stopping what is to come, even if it means using the chi of their enemy. He then holds up a letter and says he has been on the front lines longer than most, and that he knows the cost of victory. He says that he stands at Shay's side, but he also comes bearing bad news. Former Minister Gary Ochoy has been proven innocent, that there has been a cabal in Shay's country. He continues by saying a minister named Richard Devertwell broke his silence. He provided us with evidence that fully exonerated Ochoy. Several political leaders were threatened to keep silent. Richard told Code there was no one in his government he could trust. He placed his wife, Minister Barbara Devertwell, in our protective custody while he gathered concrete evidence. He was under surveillance. They found his body this morning. It seems a Titan killed him. He continues by saying that the letter he gave Shay had the names of vile individuals who belong to an underground consortium that holds Trinidad and Tobago's power, and that he feels Shay should read it. Furthermore, Ochoy has been held at Patmos per request, since it is cut off from the outside world, and he would not be able to fight his accusers. He adds that he is on his way there now to have him released, as the letter also has a copy of his exoneration. Shay says he will go, as he is Shay's people, and if he were him, he would have no trust in outsiders. Grimbor says, very well then, Sir Eric will provide you with Patmos' current location, as it is still highly classified. You'll go alone. I take it you will fly there. Those in the area will be informed of your imminent arrival. As for us, what are your orders, Lord Hart? You sit at the head of our table. Where you send us, we will go. Shay says to find him, as Thanatos' hiding is no mere coincidence. He is planning something, and that he must not put any pieces together. Kofi cuts in as heat emanates off of his body. He says enough, and that Shay still hasn't dealt with them. He says the chi coming from Shay may be more dangerous than he understands, and that he will not let Shay leave. Eric says, calm down, Lord Atkin. You're getting too hot. His body must be studied, yes, but members of the first table possess diplomatic immunity. You would be breaking every rule of code to detain him. I will not allow that. You will let him be. Isn't maintaining order amongst our kind a top priority? But Bree says their oath supersedes all, and that she personally has nothing against Shay, as Leo earned their utmost respect. Therefore, she will ensure he is treated fairly. Junie says, we know of your oath, my lord, but we are telling you that you will let him leave. Consider us a union, if you will. We can sit and speak about this newly developed situation amongst ourselves afterwards. He, however, will be excused from conversation. This is non-negotiable. Lord Zuri questions Anton about going against code for his tribe, as his movements have not been tied to the Seven Heads, and he seems independent. Anton says it was his only condition to joining the Seven-Headed Lion, full liberty around any matter concerning his pack. Tao says he knew he recognized what is around Shay's waist, as it is the talent item known as the Elder's Mantle, and that it is the reason they cannot sense Shay's chi anymore. So if he leaves, they may not ever be able to find him again. Minamoto says they have spoken enough, and that time is no longer free to squander, and that it is decided they will take Shay by force. With this declaration, Shay begins to activate his blue flames. Minamoto continues to speak, saying, this is an outcome I, the Fifth Lord, do not desire. Our oath is certain, with only one exception. All lords present must agree, and thank God there is one of us who thinks differently from even I. Speak up, Lord Oliveira. The alternative proposed must be agreed upon unanimously. In response to this, Lord Miguel says, thank you. What I speak will be my final proposition. I will substitute my life for his. Lord Hart will be free to continue his duties while providing us constant updates of his location to a trusted S-rank Kimyo of his choosing. That chi we all felt fights on our behalf. Lord Hart must remain free. His impact will win us the war. If he fails to do this, or breaks any of our stipulations as a member of the first table, I will go to the execution on his behalf. With this, only the blood of one is shed, and our main enemy continues to receive our full attention. All in favor? Now on to the highlights. So the points I had I thought were initially a bit scattered, but as I started writing, they're actually a lot more group focused. So first, let's look at Anton and the code heads. Now, Nico is said to be the 6th head, while Anton is said to be the 7th. This implies the code heads are given their number based on seniority and who's been a head for longer. And this answers why Anton is the new 7th head and not the new 4th head, as he's replacing the late Avalon Knight who died as a result of ordained judgment. This should also mean that Nico was the last or more recent one to join the code heads, as of course last season she was the 7th head, which answers the question of how the code heads are ranked as a whole, as it has only been speculated in the Discord up until this point. Leaning more into Anton's position as a code head, he says full liberty around any matter concerning his pack was his only condition to joining the 7-headed line. This can mean that it's possible for you to negotiate and keep things or matters that are important to you at the forefront of your responsibilities while being a code head. This also means that Anton is fully free to move however he pleases when it comes to the wolf pack. So for example, if Yukiko wanted to recreate the Heart Clan early or wanted to find the other members this season, but for whatever reason the code heads wouldn't want that, Anton is fully free to move however he desires regarding that matter, whether that be an intense discussion or the more likely side of things, him simply going out of his way to help her himself. The question I have regarding this is, could it negatively affect Ordained Judgment? Aldrich says in episode 115 the Ordained Judgment seal cannot be performed until they form a bond with a new 7th head. And in episode 108 last season, Aldrich says the 7 points of Ordained Judgment require 80% of chi from 6 powerful cameos of close relation and 100% from 1, with close relation being the most important part of that right now. Does this mean that if Anton and the others were on opposite sides concerning a matter, like in this episode, would Ordained Judgment not be able to be performed? Or does this mean that once the bond between the 7th is made, it is unbreakable? I'm leaning more towards the latter of the two, as I feel like it would make more sense as a whole for the code heads to always be able to use their trump card no matter their personal feelings on any given matter. But I do think if the former is true, it would be very interesting to see a situation like that played out. This also means the code heads themselves are the weakest after they use Ordained Judgment, and I don't just mean immediately after as a result of the chi cost. I mean due to them lacking one whole fighter and not having access to their greatest trump card. This is more than likely one of the reasons they themselves do not fight often and probably always fight as a group, since if they lack a fighter, there's no point in them trying to aid, as they wouldn't be able to use their greatest weapon and risk losing more fighters, resulting in said weapon having less potential to show up in an all or nothing battle. Now I want to discuss Anton's strength. Now Anton and the Kong talent was eluded by Brent in the Q&A to be very strong, and this is no surprise as Anton is a character who tends to hold back, but when he unleashes his true strength, he gets the better of his opponent. And in this episode, Minamoto implies that a potential 90% or 100% shift is enough to deal with at least one of the 10 lords. This alone implies Anton at higher or max potential is god tier level, and this also isn't too surprising as Brent himself in the Q&A compares Anton and Ian's characters and sees them as too strong for the story, with Ian being a character who with a talent awakening was able to scare off 2 actual Gaki. Though it's only fair that I mention Brent also thinks the Fox Gaki would have lived through the night, implying he himself is strong enough to deal with most of the characters there. This is all to say that I feel as though the rank of 118 Anton was shown to have doesn't reflect his current strength, and this applies to Tevin as well. I think the ranks they were given actually reflect their end of season 2 strength, which should be somewhat accurate as they do fight against a Rage Mask Kaguya, who before fleeing was rank 102, and at any given point they aren't able to definitively outmatch him, but only nearly equate his skills and strength, especially Anton, who was keeping up with him in base as he did not want to use more of Kong's chi. Rank wise, this would put them below Kaguya, which is what I feel their actual ranks are meant to portray, and their ranks don't take into account the 8 months of training they have done. And since Anton last season was able to go from a 65% max to a 75% max within a month, given 8 months, he should be able to reach 100% no question. I also feel as though this has led to a mastery over his talent as a whole, specifically in regards to chi consumption and chi application. This comes from the fact that he is using the true staff, which just makes more sense as after his fight with Jirohime, it seems that Anton knows the false staff is not strong enough to keep up with these stronger cameos. Anton also has Kong out and not in the void, and I think this, along with the season 3 design art of him that shows the 10% shift tail, may suggest more abilities with Kong himself have been achieved, as well as more strength and better mastery with lesser percent shifts. Moving on, I would now like to look at the pillars. First, let's acknowledge the fact that Grimbor did apologize to Shay, which like I said in my 114 review would redeem his character in my eyes. This also adds on to his character and what we know of him, as well as what he thinks, as he expresses he and Shay have the same resolve, as well as him having people he needs to keep alive. His strength also seems to be no joke, as Reed says he isn't called the White Fang for nothing. This should imply he has a very clear and reputable strength, as Reed's prior sentence can imply Grimbor would be a major factor in a fight against the Pillars and the Lords. This interaction also shows how the Pillars have their own autonomy that Brent himself mentioned in the Q&A, with autonomous meaning having the freedom to govern itself or control its own affairs. And this is more than likely why Grimbor himself says this is a matter of the first table and it does not concern the Lords. So while the Pillars are ranked members and have to report to code, they themselves possess diplomatic immunity and have their own governing system, with the leader of said system being Shay. I'll come back to Shay being a leader in a bit, but the Pillars possessing diplomatic immunity is interesting to me, as from how this episode is portrayed, this is something the gods here themselves do not have, which further adds to the autonomy they have. As like it is implied by Himmel in episode 113, those with diplomatic immunity may be able to operate outside of Code's law, and Eric seems to prove this is true by saying detaining Shay would break Code's law. Now, Shay being the leader of the first table does make me wonder if he has been the only one to lead them, or if another leader existed prior to him. This may also explain what Shay's potential rank is, as maybe the person who has that rank isn't a hand, but always sits as the head of the first table, which is something I want to shout out Nauni for, as he did come up with that idea some time ago, with him suggesting that since Vatic hasn't been shown to have a hand so far, and Brett Brent feeling he shouldn't have one based on his character, whoever is ranked 12 is the leader of the pillars. Now in regards to Shay actually being a leader and giving them in order to find Thanatos, this could mean that the picture we actually got in the season 3 trailer of them walking towards something could actually be the 4 of them going to find or fight an opponent who has connection to Thanatos and maybe even knows his whereabouts. Though that's simple speculation. In regards to what Grimoire says about Gary, I'm actually surprised that issue was resolved so early on in the season, as I didn't expect anything to come out of Gary's situation anytime soon. And this did end up revealing that one of the ministers of Trinidad's government is now dead, and his wife is in protective custody. This might sound a bit crazy, but I'm actually glad he is dead, as if he was fine, it would sort of take away from the lethality of Abel's threat to them last season. But him being dead shows they more so mean what they say, and the lives of others and those who go against him are meaningless to them. This leads me into the actual letter Grimoire gave Shay, as he says it has the names of vile individuals who belong to an underground consortium that holds Trinidad and Tobago's power. Now, I've never heard of a consortium, so of course I looked it up, and it is an agreement, combination, or group as of companies formed to undertake an enterprise beyond the resources of any one member. This means many businessmen and women helped Abel take control of Trinidad's government, and it's highly plausible some of those names on the list are the 4 humans that were part of Trinidad's governing council who sided with Abel to blow up the stadium, with these 4 being Sonia Olsen, Dante Smith, Amari Green, and Rajani Bharat. If they are on the list, it'll be interesting to see them again and how they may interact with other characters. I'm also just naturally curious about what the letter says verbatim. And lastly, let's take a look at the 10 lords. Now the first thing to note is their actual ranks, with the 1st, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th lords being changed. Starting with the 7th and below, all the lords have been moved up 1 rank from their previous positions, and we know this is due to Bjorn's death, with him being the previous 7th lord. Tao is also the new 10th lord, which I will talk about in a bit, but he and the others signify that when a lord dies, everyone below is moved up 1 rank, and whoever the rank 11 is will become the new 10th lord. This was partially told to us before in episode 49, but since Leo wasn't an official lord, as said by Aldrich in episode 24, people were confused about how the lords are replaced. Now you may be wondering why Bonnie isn't a lord and why Tao is, but there's a couple reasons for this. Tao being a lord in general may have been foreshadowed in episode 100, as Kevin says he is right outside the door of the god tier, and that he has always been more than capable. Now we don't know how long a hand is assigned to their lord, but given how the other lords and hands act towards one another in season 2, we can assume it's for a decently good margin of time. So the assessment of Tao's character by Kevin could be very accurate, and Tao is a lot stronger than he himself would lead you to believe. You should also keep in mind that Brent said in the Q&A that the hands are god tier level, but they just lack experience, which means all the royals have the baseline strength required to be a lord, but lack the full mastery over their skills and experience to be ranked as a member of the god tier. Now in regards to why Bonnie isn't a lord, it is because her position as the 7th lord was temporary, as said by Brent in the Q&A as well. Bonnie herself is more than likely retired, or she may have another position in code itself. I personally would like to see her again, as we didn't get enough action from her, so I'd like to see the full extent of what she and the Bifrost talent is capable of. Moving on, Vatic is now seen as the 1st lord and not the 2nd, and this is more than likely due to Kevin, who was the 1st lord, not being able to be contacted by code, so Vatic is now naturally seen as the strongest Kimyo on the planet. It should also be noted that there is no 2nd lord and that Kofi is still the 3rd lord. This may be a similar situation to how Code left the rank 1 position open for Leo and hopes he would eventually claim it. So maybe Code is keeping the 2nd slot open in the event Kevin does return, so that Vatic will be ranked down back to the 2nd lord and Kevin will retake his place as the 1st. If this is the case, I do see Kevin's return to Earth being a very hype moment and maybe during an intense fight. Now in regards to Kofi, his talent seems to be heat related. As Eric says, he is getting too hot, and we actually see the heat starting to emanate from his body. I'm pretty sure the current theory in the Discord is that his talent is pressure related due to his sort of steampunk adjacent design. If his talent is pressure related in any way, it could make sense, as increasing pressure on a mass can increase its temperature due to the more frequent and forceful collision between molecules. Though if you have any ideas regarding his talent, put it in the comments below. And finally, let's look at the God Tier's oath. Nico says the lords are bound by oath and that they will risk everything to stop Thanatos. This should mean the reason the God Tier were formed is so there would be a group whose purpose is to stop Thanatos, and this adds on to why the 3 Adamos brothers are always at the top of the God Tier, as outside of being the strongest talents out there, they would be the 3 primary sources to stop Thanatos, with the others being strong and capable support in that endeavor. This could also imply that you can't be a God Tier unless you take the oath, so there could be Kimyos out there, some of them potentially in Patmos, who made it to God Tier levels of strength but didn't take the oath. To end things off, I enjoyed this episode a lot. It was a good breather from the prior episodes full of action, but still had many important things relating to it that helped move the plot forward. The episode also helps me notice one of the new additions to how Brett is drawing scenes in this season, with that being the lack of eyes on characters. It's in this episode a few times, and I like the addition of this because it helps focus in on the character who is talking, while the others are subconsciously blurred in a way. Or it puts more focus on the specific action the character may be performing rather than their face. An example of that second one would be with Andre in episode 126. Now, I was right about Shay needing the Elder's mantle, as he was confused for being Thanatos in this very episode. I also think the fact he can't conceal the chi himself and needs the Elder's mantle to do so is further evidence that Shay can't access his chi directly, as if he could, he should be able to use the chi shrouding technique on it like he did with Ilios' chi in episode 113. And thinking about it now, that was more than likely Shay's final attempt at trying to hide his own chi before it was inevitably revealed. This episode also proves that I was right about the lords not always agreeing on things, as Minamoto doesn't want to take Shay by force, and Mikhail doesn't want Shay to be taken at all, and is willing to die in Shay's place if the need arises, which is something I like about Mikhail's character, as it further adds on to him knowing of Shay's path and how important it is. And lastly, for the comment of the week, I would like to put a spotlight on South Kami. They point out that Shay's damaging of the moon was a declaration of war not only to Thanatos, but to Code as well, also saying Shay is making his own faction, which includes the first table. This is a sentiment I find myself agreeing with, as Brent has stated in the Q&A that Shay and Code are antagonistic towards each other when Shay is Ronin, and as expressed by Shay in episode 115, he does not have much loyalty to Code itself. Shay making his own faction is also pretty clear in this episode when it comes to the first table, as their loyalty to him seems unquestionable, and further adds to them having their own autonomy. Brent has also said in the Q&A that Shay has followers and his own team when he is Ronin, and this adds to South Kami's point of Shay making his own faction, as it inevitably becomes true. But anyway, that's the video guys. Let me know your favorite part of the chapter was in the comments below, as well as how you feel about the things I mentioned in the highlight section. Don't forget to read the actual episode for yourself, and be sure to like it as well, and I will see y'all in the next one.